In September 1897, my grandmother was born in St. Paul, Minnesota. Recently, I found her birth announcement in an old newspaper. I was surprised when I found it because I didn't know newspapers printed birth announcements back then. That little clipping sent me down a rabbit hole about what it was like for a woman to give birth in St. Paul in 1897. Let's step back in time. St. Paul in 1897 was a growing city of over 130,000 people. The streets were busy with horse-drawn carriages. Electric lights were still rare. Most homes used gas lamps or kerosene. Automobiles were brand new, and almost no one had one. In this world, when a woman went into labor, she didn't rush to the hospital. Instead, childbirth usually happened right at home. By 1900, almost all births in the U.S. took place outside of hospitals, usually at home. St. Paul did have hospitals at the time, like St. Joseph's Hospital, which opened in 1853, but they were not where most women gave birth. Hospitals were seen as places for the sick or poor, not for healthy women having babies. So my great-grandmother most certainly gave birth at home, in her own bedroom, surrounded by family and maybe a midwife or a doctor. In 1897, births could be attended by midwives, experienced women in the neighborhood, or by doctors making a house call. By the end of the 1800s, doctors were slowly taking over more deliveries, but midwives still were very common, especially among immigrant families. Fathers usually weren't allowed in the room. Instead, women relied on mothers, sisters, and friends for comfort. Picture it, St. Paul, 1897. My great-grandmother in labor, in a modest home lit by daylight or a kerosene lamp. The midwife or doctor would have asked for boiled water and clean linens, basic steps for keeping things as safe as possible. Germ theory was still new, but medical workers knew cleanliness mattered. There were no fetal monitors or IVs, just laboring women, her helpers, and a lot of prayer and hope. Pain relief was limited. Some doctors used ether or chloroform, but it wasn't common, especially at home. Many women endured childbirth with little more than support from loved ones and maybe a sip of whiskey. And the risks were high. Around 1900, about 6 to 9 mothers out of every 1,000 died from childbirth complications. Infant mortality was even higher. About 1 in 10 babies didn't live to their first birthday. Families knew childbirth was both a time of joy and danger. That makes me even more grateful that my grandmother and great-grandmother both survived. Once the baby was born, the mother often entered a recovery period called lying in. For a week or two, she rested while relatives or neighbors helped with meals, chores, and older children. If the family was religious, baptisms usually happened quickly, both for spiritual reasons and because of the high risks for infants. And then there was the newspaper. Birth announcements back then were short notes, often without the baby's name. They might read, "Mr. and Mrs. Smith are rejoicing over the arrival of a daughter." The announcement I found was just facts. Mr. and Mrs. Peter J. Francois, and the word girl off to the right of the column. Just a few words in print, but it connected my family to the wider community. Friends and neighbors reading the paper would know a new little girl had joined the world. If you'd like to uncover announcements for your own ancestors, here's where to look. Newspapers.com, one of the largest online archives of American newspapers. It's a paid site, but it covers both small-town papers and big city dailies. Chronicling America, free from the Library of Congress, with millions of searchable pages from 1777 to 1963. Genealogy websites. Sites like Ancestry and MyHeritage often include newspaper collections. Local historical societies and state archives. For example, the Minnesota Historical Society has St. Paul papers on microfilm and digitized. So here's how to search effectively. Start with the family surname. Add the city or county name if possible. Try searching Mr. in quotes, plus a surname, since announcements often listed the parents instead of the baby. Use quotation marks for exact matches. Narrow the date if you know the birth year or month. When you find a record, like a birth announcement, it's more than just a date and a name. It's a doorway into your ancestors' life. Ask yourself, what was their world like? Who was present? How did the family celebrate? These details, pulled from history books, local newspapers, and family memories, turn a single line of print into a full story. That's how we keep our ancestors alive and pass their stories to the next generation. Learning about childbirth in 1897 makes me admire my great-grandmother's strength. She went through labor at home, without modern medicine, and faced real risks. Yet she brought my grandmother safely into the world. Today we have hospitals, advanced care, and so many safety nets. But the emotions, fear, hope, relief, and joy are the same now as they were then. Finding that old announcement gave me not just a family story, but a window into the world my great-grandmother was born into. If you found this story helpful and inspiring, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and tap the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I share more genealogy tips and family history stories. Thank you for watching, good luck with your research, and I'll see you in the next one.